Hello, this is Cara from Cara Tarot with a wonderful, exciting hashtag that I just came across this morning when I was, doodling around and watching some videos as I got ready. And then I saw that Moon Rain Magic, who's one of my new favorite friends online, had posted a new hashtag video. And as usual, she goes all out and goes over the top with it. And she's very knowledgeable. But I will say also, she's great at her own PR because when she does a hashtag like this, she shows you all of her stuff, and which is quite comprehensive. And so her responses are always, really great. Um, this is a hashtag, Tarot for the Querent, and this was created by Miss Kulala's Mystical Musings. This was a new channel to me, but what a wonderful hashtag, which is all about what I've been interested in lately, which is seeing how people practice. I mean, yeah, it's fun to look at decks, but as some of you know, I have more than enough decks, and I really just want to think about how I'm practicing. And that's why I started posting my own general daily readings. And then I have not finished watching Moon Rains because I thought it might intimidate me too much. And so I did watch the version done by Highly Sensitive Tarot. So I watched Miss Kulala's and I watched Julia's at Highly Sensitive Tarot. And by that time I was so jazzed I just wanted to get down to it. But because I'm taking care of my mother, I decided to do the readings first. So I did one reading before I got her up, and then another reading while she was eating breakfast, and then I finished up with the third reading, and now I'm doing this now that she's kind of gone down for her late morning nap. I get to do this, and I had to get my dog situated because she was closed out of this area because of this screen behind me, and so she was just whining, and I didn't think we all needed to listen to that all through my video. She's a Great Dane, and they want to be with you every moment of the day, which I love. So this hashtag, Tarot for the Querent, is made up of, it starts off with 10 potential client questions that would come to you. And then she has asked you to pick 3 of those questions, I think 5 of the questions, but pick 3 of the, it seems like 3 is a good number for actually doing the readings without making it too long. So I chose 3 questions. I will post the 10 questions below and links to her video. And so then just deal with it as if you were doing a reading for that querent. And so kind of what I did was kind of one general. And then one thing for me is like, I take different decks with me depending on a situation. So I also kind of set that situation up and what decks I would have with me, and what I chose out of that for each one, knowing the question too. But then I just kind of threw that additional, it's in this situation, so I would only have these kind of decks, and this is what I would choose. And the first one is more like what I would choose if I were at home and I could choose from anything, any of my decks, and the person could pick off my shelf or whatever. But I loved this concept, and I so look forward to seeing other people's responses, and I hope you enjoy mine. Thank you. So the first question is, I've just found out that my partner has been unfaithful. What do I need to know to decide what to do? So since part of this is talking about our process, I immediately got some ideas when I had this question about what I wanted to do, as well as what spread I wanted to use. And this spread uses an oracle card at its core, and then has a past and a present component. And I like these oracle cards. First of all, this question is big and it's heavy. So I wanted to pick like a central card that's going to honor both aspects of this. This is the Da Vinci Oracle, the Da Vinci Codex or Oracle cards. And they're all rather dark. And I think, this question is dark, is heavy. So I didn't want to pick something that was light and bright and fluffy, because this has to honor the feelings of the person that's having this situation. Now, if I had someone in front of me, I would be asking them to choose a deck. And so this has a central card. Malady, stress, burnout. So there we are. And I think we know the situation can bring all of those with it. And first of all, let's just look that up. This is in French. Okay, you want moments of relaxation and happiness to relieve this. Of course, that's what we all want: malady, stress, and burnout. For the past, I'm going to use the Dame Darcy Alice deck because relationships are nuts, quite simply. And this is a crazy deck, and this is how relationships feel, especially when you're thrown for a loop by something in them. They just feel like they're out of control and surreal, that you're in a situation that you hadn't previously considered being in. And I'm gonna just spread these out and pick 3. I really think that one wants to come too. Okay. And that's in this layout. These are the past cards. Oh, I'm gonna pull that one out too. That's the bottom card from the deck, and I'll talk about that later. And then for the present cards, I want something that's going to be reinforcing. And one of the things I like about the Intuitive Night Goddess deck is the concept of this deck is about the goddess, or if it's a man, the god. But it's about this sense of owning the divinity within us, that every person has this divinity within us. And that's an important place to be, I think, for ending this reading, because regardless of the decision, you want to be supporting the individual. We have 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to put the bottom card there. And this is, again, is the intuitive Night Goddess deck. Okay, so in the card in this question, you've just found out that my partner has been unfaithful, and what do I need to know to make the decision? So let's look at this past side here. We have the Page of Cups, which can be, it's love, but it can also be an immature love. And it wants you to just drink fully of this immature love while you just look on it passively. The Page of Cups brings you messages. Perhaps this is the message that you were brought today, which then brings you to this place of the Five of Pentacles, which is a sense of loss, of poverty, of course. Of course, this is the place where you are with this question. And it's leading you to the King of Pentacles. This is a man that is very stable, or a masculine type energy that is very stable. Now, remember, this could be the partner. Certainly he has not proven to be very stable, but this is a person who thinks long range. So this could be you. This could be an element of yourself, that you had a whole lot of plans going, and you were in this for the long haul, and now those plans have been abruptly changed because of this illness. What do we have here? We have butterflies or moths at the core of this, and moths that seem to be coming out of the veins of maybe a heart. So we have something eating away at the heart, and we have very somber, aged looking people all looking towards this center. If this is the person, this is representing the person who is cheating, this is an anomaly. This, if this is indeed somebody who's thinking long range, this could just be an anomaly for that person. Now, and what do we have here? We have, this goes back to these childish dreams of what a relationship is. We have these, this is the dreams of childhood. No one ever dreams of being cheated on. So this is, this is very much what the core of this is about. This is what has been crushed by this situation. I think this, I'm more inclined to think that this is about you, the querent, being, see the fingers to the forehead, you're thinking now, and you've got these two choices that you're holding up to your head. And you're trying to think of what's best in long range. One of the things that's not addressed in this question is, are there children involved? Is it a family involved? How long have these people been together? Those things all go into the long range factors of how these decisions are made. Things like, what's the relationship like otherwise? Have you found out because the partner has told you it's over? And they want to be forgiven. There are a lot of different variables that can go into this question. So now we're going to look at the future side of this. We have the monarch again here. Oh, all majors. We have all majors coming up here. And the King and the Queen of Pentacles. Fascinating. Fascinating. So let's look at these. This is the monarch, But in this deck, they're all represented, except for a few, represented by female figures. This is the Emperor. This is reminding you that you have ultimate leadership of yourself and your decisions. And that's something that you need to take ownership of in this situation, regardless of what your decision is. You need to do it from this place of you're not passively accepting the situation. You are taking ownership of this choice. You have a tiger inside of you. If that tiger decides to stay for whatever reasons that are going on here, you can still take flight. If that tiger inside you decides to leave, you are able to fly. You have the strength to do this. Either decision you make is a decision that you have the strength for and you will succeed. This is normally the Judgment card, this Awakening card. This is something we haven't touched on yet, which is there a faith component here within the relationship? Obviously, most marriages take place in a church or in a religious institution of some kind. What is your highest self, your inner faith? What is that calling you to do? And we need to be careful because women often feel called to subjugate themselves or give things up, and whereas men don't. Men tend to be, well, I have to take leadership, and women's like, I have to submit myself. Be careful that you're not just doing that. It needs to revisit your faith in terms of your strength, in terms of your power. Don't give up your power. You can be calm. And this is one thing. You want to find a place of calm when you make this decision. You want to find, before you finalize your decision with yourself, you're going to have a lot of outside voices and influences coming at you. But you need to center yourself. And this decision that you make, knowing your own strength, has to come from a place of inner calm. Neither road right now is going to be easy. If you can do these things, you have a very positive outcome, regardless of your choice. This still isn't telling you your choice, but this is telling you that you have the strength to do it. You have the inner fortitude and the faith to do what you need to do. And if you can combine those, this outcome is going to be good for you. Why? Because of this. Because even though you're here right now, you have this inside of you. And either decision you come to is going to be flowering. It's going to represent a flowering of you. Yes, you can flower inside of a relationship that has had damage to it. And yes, you can flower by leaving a relationship that is bad. A lot of the details of the relationship have not been given to us. It is important to note this here, as this is the Queen of Pentacles. This is again reminding you. Whereas this may be more the intellectual idea of your two choices, the Queen of Pentacles combines this long-range thinking with love. What's best for these other people? And neither one of these is the partner. But we have a ram, a very forceful person, and a bunny, a very, flighty, perhaps scared element. Maybe these are two elements of yourself. But there's a long-range planning that goes on here. And this is part of this, is whatever decision you're making, you need to be thinking long-term. Just as you were thinking long-term before and it got fractured from your childish vantage point, you now have a mature vantage point. And you need to look ahead with strength. It's no accident that you have this monarch and queen united in yourself. And this, the burnout part of this, is telling you also, you may need to take a step back. You may need to, a lot of times in this situation, the cheated on partner will take the kids and go to the parents' house to just get some time away from the energy of the relationship and the fractiousness of the particulars of this period, to get a little more calm, get a little more perspective, get back to who you are. Whether that is done externally or internally. Taking your strength, it could also be asking the other person to go away for a week. Especially if that person is saying they want to work on the relationship. Just say, just go away for a week. I have to decide what I want to do with this information. Now, if this is a rumor that has come to you, I mean, this question is worded very specifically, I have found out, which means you have, that you know for a fact that this has happened. This isn't about, I think my partner is cheating on me, which is a different question. This question is, I have found out, and usually the way that that happens with that certainty is the partner has acknowledged it, which puts you in a much better place to come to this mature issue. If it's a question of doubt, I really do think that's a different question. So that's kind of the groundwork for where I come into this reading. So the crux of this is your leadership and your judgment. You have so much leadership here. You have left behind these childish things, and you've grown into this leadership. And by accepting your own leadership, regardless of your decision, you will have the outcome that is best for you. And that's the first question. So the next question that I'm going to work with is the next to last question, I think it is. What do I need to release to gain clarity? Now, a couple things about this question. And I would discuss this with the person. So first of all, I'm approaching this one as if I were out at a fair or at a shop and I only had a certain number of decks. And I'm using one of the decks that I would have with me for just kind of a general day of reading, the Mystical Medleys, because I think it is both very accessible because it's cartoon, so it's non-threatening for people that aren't used to getting readings. It's also a very tough deck, a very strong deck. So with a question like this for clarity, I would say, okay, I would offer them a choice, but I would say this one is going to give you the strong answer that I think you want for clarity. Some of them give softer answers. And the thing about this question, they haven't said clarity about what. So we're going to at least start off with a general issue. And I'm going to say, if you don't want to, if you can't pin it down more, the cards are going to pin it down for you. The cards are going to say, this is what you want to, this is what you need to deal with first. And you may think, oh, well, I don't want to deal with that. But the cards are saying that's what you need to deal with first. And I'm doing the Fourfold Vision spread by Ed Buren this is one of my regular spreads now. After working with the William Blake Tarot pretty extensively, this was in that guidebook, and I really just like this spread, especially for clarity. And the other thing I would say about this question is most people don't, this is an oddly framed question. What do I need to release to gain clarity? I would say the majority of people come at you with, they want an action step going forward. They're not thinking about what they need to let go of. So, but I'm going to go with a question and assume that this person sat down with this really unusual wording of what do I need to let go of to gain clarity. So I've already shuffled because I didn't want to take up my time doing that. What this spread does is it identifies a topic, and then it tells you 4 different ways of looking at that topic. And that's very good for clarity in terms of trying to break down the elements of what you're looking at. So what we're looking at today, the 7 of Swords is some treachery. Treachery, duplicity. This is either of somebody else or of your own that you have. So right away, I would say you have some secrets, or you have something that you're holding back, or perhaps something that you've kind of taken from someone else, and that's what you need to let go of. So now let's get a little more perspective on this. The Empress. The Empress is your ownership of leadership. It's for your fertility. Right away, I would say maybe you're keeping secret that you're pregnant, because this card is often about pregnancies. Now, obviously, in a real reading, that a person would chime in, and I would not be so definitive. I would say, does that element of this resonate with you? And if not, this is something about, perhaps also about your land, your territory, your home, that something going on there you're not being, you're keeping a secret about. So letting go of secrecy is where I'm headed. Now, the second part of this is the overview. This is the overview of this, the kind of superficial. This is a deeper way of looking at it. Oh, more secrets, more hidden things. So it may not only, there may be secrets on multiple sides here. There are things going on underneath the surface that you don't know about. You have a really strong wolfy component here of, this would be a more, again, more secretive, more duplicitous element. And both of your home is really solid. Your home is really this safe place, these 2 pillars with, but to move forward, you notice the wolf is closing his eyes and looking this way and whistling. He's not thinking about moving forward. The dog and the lobster is just kind of lying here, happy in this little secretive swamp. So, okay, now this card, so that's the deeper way of looking at what's going on here. This card is about ways to work, a creative way to work with this. The Star. So the Star is telling you right away, you need to be more hopeful about the aspect of coming clean with whatever it is that you need to come clean about. You don't need to withhold everything. The Star is telling you that there is hope. There are things that will water you, both refresh you and will help you grow if you can let go of this, if you can just stop whistling and actually communicate. And this is supposed to be the God's eye view of this situation, or the larger scale view of this situation. The Nine of Cups. Oh, you're very contented with the situation as it is, and that could be a problem. This can be a card about holding on to things, which again, if it's, we've got the secrets or duplicity, you're just doing a little dance while you hold on to this information, and you're not particularly disturbed that it may not be honest. I guess here this may be that you're afraid you're going to disrupt this comfort a little bit if you go ahead and if you're fully honest about what's going on, you may disrupt all these little nice things in a row that are leading towards having a happy home. But the problem is you can't get to the happy home until all of this stuff is out in the open. This is preventing you just dancing around these topics instead of dealing with them directly. And this is where you can't be a people pleaser. This deck is tough. It comes out and lays things out. And this is part of it. It's like you can't be a people pleaser in some situations. You have to just come clean and let the chips fall where they may. And the way you do that is by resting in your hope. Now, I'm going to add an oracle card. I've already shuffled these as well. This is another tough deck. It looks fun, but it's also tough. And there it is. Out-argue the bad narrative in your head, which goes directly to this, having hope. So it's like when you're getting to this situation of, oh, I can't talk about this, you need to out-argue the bad narrative that's making you keep quiet. And talk that out, talk that monster out of your head so that you can actually come clean and wash away the problems that are resulting from holding back this information. And that's your answer for that question on clarity. Of course, in an actual reading, I would say, in the process, I would say, is this element resonating with you? Is this element resonating with you? And if not, I might look at other aspects of the card. But in just a cold reading like this without an actual person there, because I consider a reading to be a conversation. So without that other person there, that's what the cards are saying to me right here about this question. I'm back with my third scenario now. Now, my third scenario is that I'm out at a Halloween party, which again means I usually take about 5 decks with me and let people choose. And if I feel that a particular deck would be better for a question, I might choose. Like for a Halloween party, I'm going to be picking all dark or Halloween or skeleton kind of decks. So some of you will know I have been working with Antique Anatomy all week, and I thought about using that, but instead I thought I'd break out another one, because that definitely is one that I would take along for a Halloween party. But instead I'm going to use the Beauty of Bones Tarot, and the question that I am answering is, I think it's number 5. I'm having difficulty with a close family member. What role am I playing? What can I do to make things better or set better boundaries? So, as I shuffle, I'm going to talk a little bit about this question. And this is the way I would talk to someone. I would say, okay, the question that you've given me, first of all, I just want to say I'm sorry. It's really painful to be having problems with a family member, especially one that you've been close to in the past. So, first of all, I just want to say I'm sorry you're going through that. And the reality, and aside for all of us here online, the reality is that a whole lot of families, especially in America, are going through this right now because of what's going on in the leadership of our country. And these are not new situations. They've been going on since the first go-round. And so a lot of family relationships, even people that you thought were your best friend, are very, very, your best friend within the family, have become completely fractured. So yeah, just apologize to the person for that. So, and then I would say what you have asked me is really 3 different questions. You've asked me, what role are you playing? Now, I would just say, between us, I think you already know what role you're playing, because if you think about it, you know what you've done, you know how you have taken things in, you know how you've lashed out, you know the variety of responses that you have had to this situation with this person. So I think it's something you already know. So the cards don't need to tell you that. The cards are good at answering one question, maybe an addendum question afterwards. So the other 2 questions that you had are, how can you best deal with the situation, help the situation, or create boundaries? Now, I would say the creating the boundaries would be one way that you deal with the situation. So what I would say is, let's clarify this question, if it's all right with you. Let's clarify this question to start with to one question, and that question is, how can you deal with this situation? So I've already shuffled here, and I'm going to do the spread that I would normally do for this kind of a setup at a party, which is a 4-card spread. This is, I got the 3-card spread from one person, then I added the last card. So this is the topic that we're dealing with. This is a gift to receive, a gift to give, and an action to take. And I added the action because I think people really like to feel like they've got marching orders, that there's something specific they can think about and work on. Not that they couldn't get it from the others, but it solidifies it by calling it an action item. So the topic here is the 8 of Treasures. Now, this is about getting to work. And this is really what you came here with. This question says you want to get to work. You want to get serious and figure out how best you can work on this relationship for good or ill. So this is exactly what you want here. This is telling you, yes, you know it's time. It's time to make those decisions, to focus on this issue and really work it out. It's going to allow a lot of growth for you. And it's interesting, it's at the hip bone here, because it's like, because it's family, it's the pelvic region. This is the family seat. So yes, that's exactly what we're working on here. The gift to receive. The High Priestess. This is telling you that you need to go deep within yourself. You for a while, forget what the other person has done, forget what the other person has said. You need to go deep within yourself and evaluate where the blockages are in your vision. You need to evaluate what stars crown you in this situation. This evaluation, and then what's veiled, what's keeping your vision veiled, and a lot of times it can be individual actions that veil your sight, is that you get caught up so much in the daily tit for tat or the text, that last text, that you don't take a step back, take a step inside, and come from the place of your inner peace and your inner intuition. Instead, you spend a lot of times dealing with whatever superficial things are happening on top. So that gift to receive is mainly remembering to go down into your core, that you have answers there that maybe you haven't been willing to look at, probably because it's family. And that there are, because that makes it harder. It makes it more emotional. And this is just about getting the work done. This is taking the emotions out of it. And this is also, in a way, this is dealing with the core of your highest vision of you, not about them. This is about dealing with yourself. So that's something to receive, something to give. Justice. Well, isn't that the truth? Once you get down to this core, then you can make your decision from a place of justice, of weighing what's been done, what's been said, but how you at your core want to respond to these, not responding to whatever tit for tat may be going on, but coming to it from a place of calmness and strength. The thing about justice is, if you're the person imparting justice, you are the person that has control. And sometimes, especially with family members, we forget that we have control. So you want to take that, and this is here interesting. Putting your hand on the scales is, a metaphor for something not being really fair. So, and you want to make sure that you're not putting a hand on the scales, or if you are weighing one side a little too heavily, it's the side that goes towards the future. And it's the side that goes towards this sweetness, this pink sweetness. And finally, an action to take. The King, here we have Pentacles again, the King of Treasures. This is about your material good. First of all, the treasures are about your material welfare. So that's something we haven't talked about here, is the material concerns of this family relationship. Like, is this a person whose house you're living in? That would make a difference in how you respond. Is this a person who's living in your house? That would make a difference in how you respond. But the King of Treasures is also kind. But the King of Treasures is, once again, just like these two, boy, all of these are telling you, don't think short term. Don't respond in the short term. Take a step back. The King of Treasures thinks long range. The King of Treasures, again, takes ownership of his leadership, of his decision-making capacity, and also that person is thinking what's best for everyone in the long term, which can be hard because that's, it's difficult at the top because you're taking in everybody else's opinions. Now, let's set that aside for a moment because that's my first impulse. But let's also acknowledge this could be another person. This could be whoever is the King of Treasures in your family. Is that person involved? That's what I would ask. Is whoever you think of when I say the King of Treasures in your family, that person that we've described, that person who has long-range planning, who is in charge of the material aspects of the family? Is that person involved in this relationship? And so then if that person is involved, then I would say, is that the person you're having trouble with? Because if it is, then that changes it changes greatly what your options are. If this is the person who's holding the purse strings, if this is the person who owns the property, if this is the person who's ultimately gets control of the family unit as a whole, that's going to change what options you have. If, however, this is you, then you have the only thing you have to do then is take ownership of your leadership. So I'm going to add an oracle card to this, maybe more than one, we'll see. Okay, so now this is the question of role. This is directly addressing the question of role. Is this you or is this the other person? If this is not you, you're in a subjugated state where you can have these things on your own, but you ultimately don't get to control. You don't have final say in how things go, because when you come to this core of yourself, when you've done the hard work and you've worked out what is best for you, this person might still say no. And then you need to think about how that lands. So that is the issue of the role. And now one thing I will say that I see here is these are your boundaries. These are the questions you talked about. This is what's going to set your boundaries. By going inside, by analyzing what you see and what you don't see, by not responding quickly, and by taking ownership of your own justice, that's going to set your boundaries for you. This is going to help determine how best to deal with the situation. Oh, this one flew out and I didn't even notice it. So, protection, communication, and identity. Isn't that interesting? This is the mushroom cap. So these three elements, protection, communication, identity. And isn't this interesting? Because this is the reverse of what you asked. Identity, what role do I have? Communication, how do I deal with it? Protection, how do I create boundaries? This is a reiteration of your question, but it said flip them. First of all, think how to create your boundaries. These are helping you. When you do these three things, you are coming into your core to create the boundaries that you need. From there, from this solid base, think about your communication. How best to communicate this, how to communicate it clearly and with strength and calmness like a king, without being reactive to whatever they fly back at you with. And your role in this, ultimately, you can only be the king of yourself. Oh my goodness, this reminds me so much of a conversation I had with my brother, which I will share with you because I think it relates. My brother, at one time when we were adults, my father was, if he wasn't senile yet, he was approaching senility. But he had always been very unreasonable. And my brother said, whenever I come home, he never changes. And I said, that's right. He's never going to change. The only thing you can do is take ownership of how you respond to him. We're the adults now. And I mean, we were in our 50s and 60s. I was 50s, he was 60s. When we had this conversation, it's like, that's right. We're the adults in this relationship now. So you have to take ownership of this identity of being in charge of yourself, being responsible for your interactions. Because you can't make the other person change. And this goes back to how you're going to deal with this situation and how you're going to protect yourself, because you can never make the other person change. If that other person is also coming into this, also coming in, if they're coming from this wonderful place of their own deep introspection, then you both are going to be able to communicate that to each other. And that's going to solve a lot of things, not all things, but it's at least going to solve that. And there may be ways for you to communicate with this person, asking them about this. What's at the core of this disagreement that you're having? You know, when they look deeply into themselves, and you know, some family members won't, we know that. But if this is someone, you can say, what's at the core of this? Now, I've done this with a family member, and what got thrown back at me is that only her immediate family members, only her husband and her children matter to her. There is no solution for that, then, if that's the kind of answer you're getting. Because if that's their core, you're always going to be on the outside of that situation. And then all you can do is try to respond with justice. Respect that that's where they're coming from, but then protect yourself, take ownership of yourself and the way you move forward with that person. There are just a lot of potential interactions going on. Also, like if you're dealing with a collateral situation here, if you're dealing with a family member who's in an abusive relationship, but she's protecting that relationship, or he's protecting that relationship, there's nothing you can do for them except be there and say, when you want to deal with this, you know where I am, but I'm not going to get in the middle of it. I could go into more, there's so many varieties of family interactions that it's really too much to go into. But this is your answer. Your answer is working on finding your core, your intuitive strength, your justice, and taking ownership of that. And that will help solidify all these other interactions. So I hope that that answers the question for you today. Or those were 3 of the questions from this marvelous hashtag. And I'm gonna have to now. I'm gonna record my introduction last. Now that I wanted to sit down with the cards and get the readings done. But I love this exercise, and I'm so grateful for everybody that has answered it, because I love seeing how people work and what examples they choose to give and of how they work. I mean, because that's telling too. I've often said, when I began doing my general readings online, I had a really specific purpose if I was trying to keep them concise, clear, and short. And that's still kind of my default, unless I know I have more time. I actually personally prefer bigger, larger readings. The more cards, the better. Which is why I'm drawn to Lenormand, or even the Lenormand style of reading. But my space for recording is smaller, but also, as I said, my primary purpose in posting those was to clarify things, just kind of work on honing things down to a simple message, even a one-word message, and go from there. And you've seen the way I like to use oracle cards, or even Lenormand or Kipper, is to use them kind of as a capping thought. And in this case, it was literally a cap. Isn't that funny? Just as a capper on the tarot, because my focus is primarily tarot and my interest is primarily tarot. One thing I didn't get into in this is I would, in a one-on-one personal situation, if someone was here and I could choose from any deck, I would definitely be asking if that person has a religious construct, and that would enter into how I choose the cards. Because I'm a Christian reader, I have many, many decks that are related to kind of either Christian history or Christian thought. I would find out other things about the person's interests. If they're interested in history, I would probably tend to use an historical deck, which may be much more obscure to other people, or much more foreign or intimidating to some people. But so that's why I gave kind of specific examples of different decks I would choose in a particular situation where it had already been narrowed down. Because if I'm going outside the home, obviously I don't bring all of my decks with me. I bring a handful, and usually very traditional decks, and then a couple others that I think are really easy for people to identify with, or that are non-threatening, or both. So this is probably going to be long, and I'm sorry, but I'm really grateful for this brilliant hashtag, and I'm so grateful for seeing how other people work. This is Cara from Cara Tarot. Thank you.